Welcome to this second session in Unit 507, Operational Management, where we're going to look at business development tools and approaches to continuous improvement. Developing the business and ensuring that we are continuously improving is something that all of operation managers should be taking responsibility for doing. Think back to the responsibilities we talked about in operational management in session 1 of monitoring and feedback, and the activity we did, which talks about improving the systems and taking responsibility for us. So in this session, we're going to examine some of the tools and approaches that we can use to do that. And first, let's just think about what we did in the previous session and how it links in. Because in the previous session, we looked at what operational management was and what the key components are. We looked at operational plans and the differences between strategic, tactical, operational plans. And then we looked at briefly at some approaches. We looked at X and Y, McKinsey's 7S, systems theory, Taylor's scientific, and the linking pin model. And hopefully you've researched them further. But in the process of that, and in activity 3, we were asking you to highlight the responsibilities you had for. One of the areas was to improve systems. And that's about looking at developing the business, and we're now going to start to examine some of the tools we can use and the ways we can approach that we can be looking to continuously be improving the systems we are within our operational management. Therefore, the overarching aim for this session is to understand business development tools and approaches to continuous improvement. By the end of the session, you should be able to evaluate a range of business development tools and where they can be best applied, and analyse approaches to continuous improvement and their relationship to other systems and other parts of your operational management. Because some of the tools we can use to business development are common, and we've already mentioned some of them, and you're probably aware of other ones. But we're going to take a quick look, and then if you're a bit like with the last set of tools and approaches we looked at, if you're unsure about them, there's some stuff in the resources, or you can research them further. We're just going to cover the main points of each. The first one, very common, used in lots of situations, but in this respect we're looking at a SWOT analysis. So there's a grid just come up on the screen, but it's when businesses will use it for business planning, when they're looking at becoming more sustainable or going into new markets or something. So they'll be looking for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities and threats they could face. On the screen there are some examples just filled in, but in the strengths we're talking about what advantages do you have, what could you do better than anyone else, what's your unique or low cost resource that you can draw upon, what others think of your strengths, so what other competitors, other departments might think as your strengths, what's your USP. Moving on to your weaknesses, what could you improve, what you should avoid, what others see as your weaknesses, what factors could stop you being effective. Opportunities, what good opportunities can you see, what positive trends are that you're aware of moving forward, and quite often it's useful to use these opportunities when things come up, like changes in technology, changes in regulatory policy or fields, or you've got a new workforce profile. And another tip can be to, when looking at these opportunities, is to look back at the strengths and ask yourself if any of those can be turned into opportunities, and alternatively look at your weaknesses and ask if any of them could be used to come up with opportunities to eliminate those. That might be one way to look at it. And finally, you're looking at the threats. What obstacles do you face? What are your competitors, internal and external, doing? Are there any quality standards in your job or products or services that are changing? Is technology threatening your position? Do you have budget and resource or restrictions and problems? And what are you not doing? Is there anything that you've stopped doing that you should do, which used to be one of your strengths? So it's just a way of analysing, and you can do that for your department. If you feel you're under threat, you could do it for anything new and any changes that are coming up. You could just do it as a quick process just to think about things, and you can even do it as a personal SWOT to think about yourself and your own position. Next is PESTLE, which is sometimes referred to as pest analysis. The concept is that you're using it as a tool to track the environment that the company is operating in. I don't know if you're planning to launch a new product or enter into a new market, or just looking at why things are the way they are. It's a mnemonic. It stands for political, economic, social, technological, legal, environmental. It gives a bird's eye view of the whole environment, all the things that could impact that environment, and you can check and keep track and sort of think about them. So it's just about analysing each of those areas and seeing what in those areas affect your business and your environment or your department. And Pestle can be done in a number of ways, and when I've used it, it's normally started with some sort of mind map, like the example coming up on the screen, where you're sort of making sure you consider all the areas, and you might ask yourself certain sorts of questions as you're analysing it, which will give you an idea. And they're things such as, what is the political situation in the country and how does it affect the industry? Are there any prevalent economic factors? How much importance does culture have in the market that we operate in, and what are the factors? Any technological innovations that are likely to pop up or are on the go at the moment that we need to be aware of? Is there any current legislation that regulates the industry, or is there anything that's planning to change, or do we expect any change? And what are the environmental concerns for the industry? Is there anything that is linking into that culture again? Is there anything that's like topical at the moment that we need to be careful of? We need to be looking at the opportunities and threats that we identified in SWOT, and Pestle can help us ensure that we haven't overlooked any external factors that might be sort of impacting on that. And when you're doing your ops plan, you could be thinking about the market and things that might impact on it that could cause a threat, perhaps using Pestle to your part of the organisation. Then there's Steeple Analysis, which is really a strategic planning tool, similar to Pestle, but Steeple is more advanced and deals with macro environmental factors. So what does that mean? All those uncontrollable forces that could affect decision making, setting strategy, affect the performance of the business. It offers an overview of all those external areas. It's an acronym really: social, technological, economic, environmental, political, legal, ethical. So it's like a big overview of the whole lot, and you may need research and subject matter experts in those areas so you can consider each of those letters in Steeple and make a judgment about its impact. With that final one, ethical, being one that we've considered before. We talked about it in problem solving and decision making. There's a description on the screen outlining what we said, because the concept of social responsibility is now so much more a big concern for organisations. You hear it on the news all the time. It's a conscious change in the culture, but ethical issues are becoming more and more of a concern. So we should be making sure we're researching those and being sure that the organisation is matching up to the sort of ethical expectations in the marketplace and from our customers and all of our stakeholders. So we've outlined some common tools there that are used in business development, and you can research those further. But it's a responsibility in operational management to be thinking about that, but also to be ensuring that we're continuously striving to improve. But why should we? Let's listen to a short video from Steve Jobs of Apple fame on his thoughts about continuous improvement. See what you think about it, make some notes, and then we'll start talking about it in the next part.